Hey students, I am Clendon Biscette and I am the lead lecturer in the front-end web development program within the Digital Humanities, New Media and Creative Industries Department at Arthur Lewis Community College. And yes, I know it is a mouthful. Over the last 15 years, I've also been a freelance web developer and graphic artist, developing websites and designing electronic and print advertising and marketing material for a selection of clients from all sectors of the business world. So how did I get here? How did I end up developing websites and teaching students the skills required to be world-class developers themselves? Quite by accident, to be honest. I got my degree in Information Systems and Management in 2006. By then, I was already dabbling in web design, teaching myself software like Microsoft FrontPage, which is now no more, rest in peace FrontPage, and Macromedia Dreamweaver, which is now Adobe Dreamweaver. As it turns out, I wasn't half bad. During one summer internship during my university studies, the company I was interning with asked me to take a look at the company's website and see if I could do some updates that were needed. I jumped all over that with a passion and impressed quite a few people. Fast forward to my first job after obtaining my degree, where I was working as an IT administrator, and part of my duties, other than networking, troubleshooting, and general computer maintenance, became administering the 3 websites of the properties that the company managed. That added some excitement and a break from the routine of hard drives, switches and cables, and I developed quite a passion for it and a large body of knowledge, and I soon began to offer my services on a freelance basis to clients, and up till today, this is still part of my bread and butter. I've facilitated a few web development workshops, the most recent being through the Caribbean Science Foundation, who hosted 2 web development workshops in spring 2019, that's January to March, and in the fall of 2019, October to December. Today, after 12 years of teaching information technology at St. Mary's College, I now lecture at Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, teaching students everything I know in web development and helping them get kick-started on their academic journey towards being web developers. So I know what you're thinking. How does my story benefit you? You're thinking, will you be that lucky to be able to make a career or a living out of a passion for web development as a self-taught professional? Of course you can. A lot of prominent people are highly successful in fields that they have taught themselves. But in today's world, you shouldn't just bank on your own skill and passion to take you to a point where you can support yourself and maybe a family with the income from your work. Chances are, even if you intend to be your own boss one day, you will have to start as someone's employee, and employers like to know that there is evidence that you can either do the work they are hiring you to do, or that you are as good as you say that you are. In which case, it's useful to be academically trained in your field or have a pretty good portfolio or body of work to show. But before we talk about subject areas and courses, let's see what the world of web development is all about. And one of the first things you need to decide is whether you want to be a web designer or a web developer, because there's a big difference in the two. They both help build websites, but they're involved in very different areas. Developers build a website's core structure using coding languages, while designers are more visually creative and user-focused. Developers use their programming knowledge to breathe life into the designer's creative vision. Think of developers as builders and web designers as architects, both necessary but different skill sets. Part of a web developer's role is to build a web designer's concept. Like we said earlier, web developers are similar to those who build, and web designers like the visionaries. A developer may specialize in designing web apps, in which case the web designer will focus more on what the user will enjoy doing. How does the relationship between developers and designers work? A web developer builds a website's framework using software like HTML and JavaScript, aiming to craft a smooth running website, which web designers then pour their creative juices onto. A web designer makes your website look good. They focus on the style and overall feel of the page, using software like Photoshop to customize the website's visual elements. They also use code like HTML and CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets, to create their designs. The term developer is sometimes used interchangeably with web designer, but that is definitely misguided. But wait, there's more. Web designers and web developers have specializations or areas that they can choose to focus on and hone their skills in. So let's look at a few of those. Within the field of web design, there are some areas of specialization. A user experience or UX designer. A UX web designer's job is to keep your website visitors hooked. They know exactly how to craft a website that your specific audience will enjoy because they've carried out thorough research into the user's demographics and website needs, not to mention tons of prototype testing and site restructuring. Just think, if people enjoy using your website, they're more likely to revisit it or recommend it. So you can already see how it can help. A user interface designer. A UI web designer helps to improve the way users interact with elements or the interface on your website. This is done by transforming ideas and mockups into a website that's enjoyable and easy to navigate. How does it differ to UX? It's a subtle difference, really. UX involves building a solid and positive user experience, while UI focuses on the look and feel of the actual website. A visual designer. A visual designer is a mixture of both UX and UI. It's their job not only to improve the user journey using their creative and coding skills, but also to solve design issues. They also help to conceptualize a brand's style or tone and implement it in a design. In essence, they're a master of all web design trades, and their specific roles can vary hugely depending on what you want. Within the field of web development, like designers, there are specific roles for web developers. A back-end developer. The back-end is where the website's core structure is designed. These developers are experts in programming and using complex software like Java, SQL, and C#. The work they do is not seen by users because it involves coding on the web servers and databases, not on the browser, unlike front-end developers, which you'll soon find out. In short, their job is to create logical, functional websites using various programs. They also spend a lot of time testing and fixing bugs. A front-end developer. This is also known as client-side development. It's more connected to web design than back-end development because it involves using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create things the user can see, like forms. In summary, like a back-end developer, those developing the front end have coding skills, but they build frameworks that the user can actually see and interact with. A full stack developer works across different layers, or as we call them, stacks, including both the front and back end. It is essentially the full package when it comes to web development, because they are an expert in all areas. So what is it like being a web developer? Well, whether you are a freelance web developer or work with a company, you spend a lot of time at your computer. That doesn't mean that you won't or don't have anyone to interact with. Most web professionals within companies are part of a team of people who are working towards the completion of a project. And as a freelance web professional, there is sort of a cycle of steps that you go through as a web developer that almost guarantees that you will be putting yourself out there and having lengthy discussions with clients. Web developers will need to have some soft skills. Soft skills aren't academic skills that you can learn in a book or class necessarily, but personal skills that come naturally to you or you can train yourself in over a period of time. As a web developer, many times you will have to work remotely and independently, so you must be able to perform quality control for your own projects and manage your own projects. General soft skills that you will need to have include multitasking, self-motivation, organization, and attention to detail. You are definitely going to have to manage your time very effectively. Being a web developer or a web designer can be very stressful at times. You may have more than one project that you need to work on, and all of them require the same level of attention, or many of them may have close deadlines. Multitasking includes observing or attending to several tasks at once. Not everyone is built that way though, and it does have its disadvantages, but it can increase your efficiency when working on multiple projects under some very tight deadlines. Because of the time-consuming project-based nature of web development, web developers cannot afford to procrastinate if they want to meet project deadlines. And if at some time you intend to freelance or work for yourself, then you really need to work on developing the drive to keep pushing when it gets tough or stressful. Organizational skills go a long way for you future web developers who have to keep track of multiple tasks, projects, and deadlines. And because of the intricacy of visual design elements and programming languages, you need to have focus and attention to detail to produce professional work and find those errors in your web coding. Can I start my web development journey now? Yes! There is a lot of learning that needs to happen in order to call yourself a professional web developer and taking on your first professional project. But because web development is such a flexible and popular field of work, there is a huge body of resources and material available online that you guys can leverage and use to start your web development journey today. Aside from the University of YouTube, where you can find hundreds or even thousands of tutorials on hundreds and thousands of channels, you can also spend a couple of bucks and sign up for courses on premium course websites like Udemy and Coursera. For just over US $10, you can follow a complete course of study in a range of web development paths. And the best part is that you get certificates of completion that you can add to your university application or even job application or portfolio that I spoke about earlier. Many web developers complete 4-year degrees, create portfolios, and take on internships. However, self-taught web developers may get a lucky, fast start, particularly if they know exactly what they want to learn and have an easy time learning programming languages and website design principles. Such was my story. Some web developers learn their trade entirely from tutorials and other online resources, but you should at least hold a certificate, associate degree, or a bachelor's degree in a computer-related field. So where should you start? Because of the nature of the work you will be doing as a professional within the web development field, it's best to have a good grasp of information technology, especially when it comes to networking technologies, the technologies of the internet, and how the World Wide Web functions. After all, you can't develop websites professionally without understanding how websites work, right? One of the first areas I would recommend that a student digs into is information technology. If not that, then EDPM. Also, although creativity and talent isn't taught but discovered and nurtured, if you're a visual arts student, it will help you sharpen your design skills and develop an eagle eye for detail. In my professional opinion and experience, and also as a lecturer of front-end web development at SALCC, I would suggest getting started on learning the foundation coding languages that power the web: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Use the world of online resources that are readily available at your fingertips and begin to learn how these languages work together to create the websites and experiences you interact with daily on the web. Start with HTML, then slide into CSS, and finally, get yourself introduced to the more challenging JavaScript. If you start and it ignites a passion in you, and you find yourself actually wanting to spend your free time web coding and developing, then you may just have found your calling. With lecturing and developing websites, I've found the best of both worlds. I can introduce students to the wonderful world of web development, and I can continue to build my skills and create my own projects. It's kind of a win-win. And as the great Aristotle said, those who know, do. Those that understand,